We are live 364 days a year.
What are we doing here?
If Dom turns at SummerSlam, I'm shaving my moustache off. I've told you, if that happens, it's going. My lip is cold because of a stupid bet that I made with YouTube.
Oh, good.
Wrestle's better than Daniel Bryan Daniels. Better than Okada.
I'm not getting sushi after Monday Night Raw.
Hangman Adam Page is once again the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. He has defeated Jon Moxley, he has destroyed the Death Riders, and we are going to be getting into all of it and a whole lot more. Good evening from Swansea wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison. You are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, a very special edition, an AEW All In 2025 post-show. And for a special show, I need a special panel. Let's kick things off with Shad. How are you today, Shad?
I am good, man. Welcome to the Wrestling Republic daily broadcast off the air special. That's why I'm here. I'm excited for it. I spent a lot of time with Ben watching this pay-per-view, and I just got a lot of adrenaline right now. I'm super excited to talk about it, so let's get into it.
Absolutely. I am pumped to talk all things All In. But before we do, we also have to introduce Anthony Ricciardi. How are you today, Anthony?
I'm doing all right. When the show started, the sun was out. Now it's dark. Long marathon, but let's get into it.
We believe, and we have not fact-checked this information, it could be wrong, that to our understanding, it's the longest American wrestling pay-per-view in history. And if that's true, that is shocking. It is officially half an hour longer than WrestleMania 35, which I believe was previously the longest. But without further ado, we have to talk about things. And out the gates, I want to talk about Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné. Going into this show, a lot of people thought it was a foregone conclusion that Mercedes Moné was going to be walking out with the championship. The Mercedes Hogan narrative online had already started. But boy, oh boy, did these two ladies deliver. They had an all-time classic. I mean, it wasn't as good as the Hollywood ending, but it was really, really close. 5 stars in my opinion. 5 stars on the Wrestling Republic system, and Toni Storm is still the women's champion, Shad.
Yeah, this match is just another accolade on these women's tally of classic matches. Mercedes Moné, I said it before, she to me is the greatest women's wrestler of all time now. I have to give her nod for that. When you talk about the amount of just high quality matches she has, it's crazy and it's continuing. But Toni Storm, man, the woman is undeniable. I feel like that should be, if you look at the Webster dictionary, you got to have her picture on there. I think how great of a character she is. Sometimes we forget how incredible of a professional wrestler she is. The story within it, the near falls, everything, just textbook wrestling down to a T. These women absolutely delivered, and it makes me so excited for the future of this women's division, because we'll talk about another match later on, but like these two women at the top of the division at both respectful champions, you have such a bright spot for it. And yeah, this match was just phenomenal.
You are absolutely right on that. It is an all-timer. And Anthony, it is really rare we see matches as good as this one, but what were your thoughts about it?
I do want to point out that I was one of the ones that said Tony would retain.
That's true.
But no, my opinion is Toni Storm may be the most valuable women's wrestler on any roster, on any company. She's got a character that's over. She could do no wrong. And she pretty much makes every rivalry she's in must see. And that's kind of what the case was with this. To me, she was the driving force to make this match as important as it is. And I think, just as a whole, they delivered, which is what I expected. I argued I thought this should have been the main event. Obviously, the main event was way more chaotic and you really had a hard time following that. But prior to that, I thought this was the best built story. This was a rivalry. This was a two people at the top of the business, an Austin Rock, a Trish Lita type scenario where these are the two top talents in the company going head to head in that division. And I absolutely thought they delivered. The pile driver off the top rope. Dangerous move to use. I'm glad it was the finish because they've, they have a tendency in AEW. This should be the finish, but no, we're going to keep going more, which was a theme throughout the rest of the night. But that was the right finish. It was impactful. It meant something. I thought they absolutely delivered. It was probably my favorite match of the night, to be honest.
Wow, honestly, I wouldn't disagree. It's between that and probably the tag match for me personally. But yeah, you are right. The pile driver off the top rope, it was brutal. But you're also right, it was also the finish. And that is something where me and you have both complained frequently over the years about pile drivers not being the finish of matches. This one was.
That's the thing that always amazes me. And I don't mean to be burying AEW with this, but they're notorious for this type of stuff where they'll do an impactful spot. The Ospreay Fletcher cage match. Like there was that insane spot and they're like, nope, that's not the finish. We still need to do this other thing. Like that wasn't necessary. This was the right way to finish it. And I thought that was, is it going to be the end of the feud? Probably not, because Mercedes is going to be bothered. She has 6 other titles, or 7 other, whatever she's got at this point, but it's not enough. So I don't think it's the end of it. But
it shouldn't, and it shouldn't be. I think these two need to be forever rivals. Like you say, you said Austin versus Rock. That's Austin versus Rock for their women's division. Like those are the two best women's to that point. So I think them kind of not this being the last rodeo, just being chapter 1 and going blow for blow, title for title, whether it be for the AEW women's title, whether it be the TNT title,
I gotta be honest, I am way more interested right now with the Athena aspect to this. Obviously, we'll get into that. She's had the title for almost 1,000 days. She's the forgotten women's champion under Tony Khan's umbrella that nobody pays attention to because she's not on the main show. She's behind a paywall, but that could be interesting.
Well, we're going to get to that, no doubt about it. We've got quite a few comments here. Fernando Isaiah saying, good evening, WR crew. Good evening to you, Fernando. DCX Warlord, to your point, Anthony, says, Athena versus Tony, winner takes all. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Fernando also says that Mercedes versus Tony Storm was top 5 best women's matches ever. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it probably wasn't
top 5 women's match this year for sure.
Yeah, top 2 women's matches this year for sure, I'd say.
Both top matches in the women's division are in AEW this year. My bad.
And both of them featuring timeless Tony Storm.
Yeah, she's
Shout out.
She's got the juice. I gotta give her a props, man. She is the epitome of a well-rounded on it's hard to argue that she can, as great of a character as she is equivalently as great as a wrestler too. So
she's found the character, and it's like she's not playing. It's not like she's playing the role. Like it's almost in a way she believes in the role. Yeah. Like she's living it, almost like
so convincing.
Like the thing that the always argument was Ric Flair. He's lived the gimmick. Like she lives the gimmick. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't come off as forced. Is that
no? You're bang on there. You absolutely are. Davian Washington says Tony and Mercedes brought the house down. I have to agree on that. But up next, let's talk about the match which kicked off All In Texas. Let's talk about the Trios Championships. Let's talk about the Ops versus the Death Riders and Gabe Kidd. It says Gabe Kidd on this graphic. My apologies about that. But
fire the graphic guy.
Oh no. But here's the issue with this one. Let's just be honest for a second. Shad, me and you, when this kicked off the show, were like, why? And as the show went on, I still was thinking to myself, why? This was one of the weaker matches on the card. I think they should have placed this towards the end of the show, in between some of the marquee matches, to give the crowd a moment to breathe. Why didn't they? Well, it was clearly because they wanted to write off Samoa Joe. They wanted to do the angle post-match. But even still, I did think this was the wrong match to open the pay-per-view, but it was still fun. Anthony, what were your thoughts?
It shouldn't have opened the show. It shouldn't even been on the show, to be honest with you. You don't throw matches on there just throw matches on there. I know why they did it, probably to stretch out the show and to do the Joe thing, but you could have done that on a Wednesday or a Saturday. You could have written them off at any other time. It was not a pay-per-view quality match. It was weak for an opener. I think they would have been better off doing either the men's or women's casino gauntlet to open the show. I think that would have been the smarter choice than this. I thought it was a very weak opener to what would turn out to be a marathon pay-per-view.
I mean, you are right. It was very long, but I also did think it was very fun, to Fernando's point. But Shad, like Anthony said, should this have been on the show?
I mean, I think it did have a place on the show. I think you have a lot of prevalent people on the match card. I mean, Samoa Joe, being a big of a star that he is, and obviously the members of the Death Riders, but the placement of the match, I did think it was a little questionable, just because there wasn't a lot of as talented as wrestlers that are on that card. I feel like the number of multi-man matches kind of gets redundant, and we had a previously 0 hour, we had a bunch of multi-man matches, right? So it kind of, builds off of that, and it doesn't feel too much different than a couple of the 0 hour matches. I mean, come on, man, having to wrestle after Big Boom AJ, the biggest, the Rizzler. Nah, but I say that to say this though. I do think the angle post match has my interest, because this is a group that already had a member get injured in Hook and then bring in a new counterpart. Now you have another member who is injured. How do we go with the shuffle? What happens with Samoa Joe? Does Hook find his way back in? Like, there's a lot of different changing pieces within it, and they still got to kind of get their get back with the Death Rider. So that has my interest on it. But yeah, the match itself, it was solid enough, but it's not a wake me up match to start off the show for sure.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough on that one, and I do completely agree with you too.
I think it's kind of weird. If you're writing Samoa Joe off, why make it a point on commentary saying that him and Hook have issues? Like, it seemed like if you're writing him off TV, it seems kind of an odd choice to emphasize that they had issues.
I was expecting Hook to come out at some point.
Yeah, same, to be honest. I mean, that is maybe an interesting point. Probably the story is now Hook is going to fit back in again, and then Joe's going to be out. And I guess that's the direction they're going on. It's a bit of a weird story, bit of a unique storyline, but I am interested to see where it goes. But ultimately, this probably shouldn't have been the opener, and maybe it shouldn't have even been on the show. But up next, we had the men's casino gauntlet match. And this was a lot of fun. I mean, listen, it didn't have as many surprises as the one last year did. That is the truth. It wasn't as good as the one last year either. But was it still fun? Yes. And at the end of the day, MJF was the one who got the victory. He has that contract. It's basically AEW's Money in the Bank. And MJF being the one with that, where he can just cash it in at any point, I mean, that fits his character just so perfectly. And it's going to be bucket loads of fun, I think. Anthony, I'll chuck this one to you first. What's your thoughts on it all?
Yeah, I think MJF was the logical choice. Going into it, unless there was somebody that we didn't know about, I thought he was the logical choice. I mean, the only other one could have been Darby, but obviously we not knowing what would come later on in the show. But MJF was the logical choice. I thought it was a fun match. At points, I felt like it maybe was going a little too long of a match. Like it was getting a little redundant at certain points. But I enjoyed it. I thought, Max with the briefcase is going to be a lot of fun, or, the contract, the same way Christian was last year when he won it.
No, I do think you are right there. And of course, DCX Warlord saying it as well. Guns up. Juice Robinson has returned, and he's saying it's pretty stupid how they didn't allow Juice to be the replacement for Trios champions, but now they're allowing Mox to be. I mean, the rules are kind of all over the place when it comes to the Freebird rule, aren't they? But the fact is, Juice did return in this match. He was pretty much the only surprise. But were you okay with that, Shad?
I mean, I was just excited to see Juice Robinson return, to be honest with you, with a new look, shaving off the beard. It was the one of very few surprises that we did have in that match. And also seeing the Gun Club return. But I do agree in that notion. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's cool to see him back, man. I think he's somebody that has a lot of talent. And I thought a couple times he had an opportunity of, making the surprise and potentially winning. But the winner is MJF, and I think this iteration of MJF is very refreshing. I feel like there is a incredible balance with him in the Hurt Syndicate, and I think his partnership specifically with someone like MVP works so well. These guys come out just as that cocky, they smell and look like money. They're better than everybody type of group, and him with that, the opportunity to cash in a title match and being next in line, as well as the Hurt Syndicate. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Decked in gold, they feel like the most powerful group in pro wrestling right now. They are a force to be reckoned with, and I know a lot of people made jokes about MJF kind of being a odd fit in the Hurt Syndicate. It's not an odd fit at all. It fits like a missing puzzle piece, and I'm here for it.
Absolutely. I mean, when this was first happening, I think all of us kind of thought that this was going to lead to Cedric Alexander debuting and it was all going to be a setup. I think very few people expected it to get to this point. But to your point, it is working extremely well. And Fernando says MJF was the right decision. MJF and Hangman have a good story going on. We'll definitely be talking about that in the upcoming weeks. But up next, we have to talk about the match which was meant to be Adam Cole versus Kyle Fletcher. Now, on the pre-show, it was announced that Adam Cole had relinquished the championship and would not be in the match, and instead it would be a fatal four-way. On the show, Adam Cole did come out. It was very emotional. It was a very sad speech which he gave. He's revealed that he's got some health issues. He said he's not going to say one way or another on retirement right now. He doesn't even want to think about that. He is not in the right headspace too, but he was clearly very emotional. It was honestly a very sad moment, but I'm glad that AEW gave him the opportunity to go out there and do that, to get that message across. But then the TNT Championship match, which followed it, and of course, get well soon to Adam Cole, right? We got DCX Warlords in prayers for Adam Cole, absolutely. Hopefully he can return. I really, really hope this isn't the end for him in AEW. But then we got onto that TNT Championship. Dustin Rhodes, Kyle Fletcher, Daniel Garcia, and Samu Guevara. Look, the truth is, obviously the stadium was quite quiet. A lot of people were quite emotional for the majority of this match. So you needed a moment to hook fans back in. And what better way to do that than to put the title on somebody who's from Texas in Dustin Rhodes? Is he going to have a long reign? Absolutely not. But did he get the crowd back into the show, and was it a feel-good moment and a moment that Dustin deserves? Absolutely, in my opinion. Shah, do you agree?
Yeah, man. I think first and foremost, Adam Cole, man, my heart goes out to him. I pray for him. I hope he is able to overcome all the adversities in good health and everything, man. The guy has he's a phenomenal professional wrestler. He's given us so much incredible moments in his time in every promotion, from ROH to NXT to what we have in AEW. So I pray for that. And I'm glad they did give him the opportunity to give some words and, kind of share that moment at All In, as vulnerable as it is. But the match itself, I think this was the right audible to what you have said. Going into a point where we kind of felt a little, upset, sad about the moment, bummed about everything, the crowd super emotional. you get him into a feel-good moment, and that is the feel-good moment, allowing Dustin Rhodes, a guy who just, has been a staple to the wrestling industry as long as he has, getting that moment in Texas, being from Texas, seeing how emotional he was, man. It's hard not to be happy for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a guy who's like, I've been watching since I was a kid, and seeing him as a grown man, old in age, still being able to compete with the best of them. It was a feel-good moment. I do think this is going to be a short reign, and I think this is a good opportunity to create one of the biggest heels in the wrestling promotion, and that can be Kyle Fletcher, eventually getting that title off of him and, just doing it in maybe dominant fashion. I'm not sure, but yeah, man, I thought it was I don't know if it was the right call initially for me. I thought Fletcher was going to win it, but the more I thought about it throughout the show, I think, it was a good audible, so I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, what I personally would do, to your point, is take this title off Dustin fairly quickly. You gave him the moment. It was a feel-good, match on the show. Maybe an open challenge on Wednesday, or maybe Forbidden Door. Then give Kyle Fletcher the belt because he does deserve it. But Anthony, I'd love to know your perspective on this.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I think this was Fletcher's to win if it was against Adam Cole. I think them pulling the audible and pivoting, sometimes in wrestling that gives you the best stuff that you're not anticipating. When they made the announcement they were going to do a 4-way, I was like, why Dustin and Sammy? Other than the fact that they're from Texas, like that was my first thought when they made the announcement. But to Adam Cole, I do want to mention one thing. I've always been a big fan of Adam Cole. It's a shame that he's had nothing but bad luck in AEW. He went in there as one of the hottest free agents, and his AEW run has been nothing short of a disaster, whether creatively or injury wise. Wishing him nothing but the best. I'm hoping it's not the end of his career. Obviously, we don't know what his injury is, but as upset as he is, it's obviously something that could put the end to his career. It was awesome to see Dustin get that moment. He's won championships. He's a future Hall of Famer. There's no question on that. But to get that moment in Texas, and not only to do it in Texas, his nephew's being there, but he's also holding the title that his brother put on the map in AEW. So there's that connection there, and that full circle moment for him. And no one really expected him to win it. I wanted him to. Once they announced it was 4-way, I was like, they're probably going to give it to Fletcher. But sentimentally, I wanted Dustin to win it, and he did, which I was surprised. I think ultimately Fletcher will get it off of him in dramatic fashion, and it gets him more heat that he's taken this moment away from Dustin. He's taken this title away from Dustin. It gives him more heat, almost like the legend killer Randy Orton, which is kind of the gimmick that he's kind of running with here.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely on that one. I do agree with you. It was that feel-good moment. It was fantastic. And you mentioned Cody, and so does DCX too. Cody was the inaugural champion. Now Dustin is the champion. Family lineage. People are joking, Dustin's finished his story, whatever, right? But the fact is, it is Dustin's first singles title in 17 years. Well deserved. Well deserved. Absolutely criminally underrated throughout his career. But up next, let's talk about a match. This match I absolutely loved. This match is probably my favorite tag team match of the year so far. It might end up going down as my favorite tag team match when the year is said and done. Some people are already saying it's the greatest tag match of all time, and I don't agree with that at all. One spot in it which I did not like at all, and of course that was the double Canadian Destroyer. No sell. You guys know me. I'm not really a fan when people do that. But it was a fantastic story, an absolutely phenomenal story they told. Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland are truly the faces of All Elite Wrestling alongside Hangman Page, we'll talk about a little bit later on. But them, the Young Bucks, they had fantastic chemistry. The crowd were absolutely loving it. And let's be real, it was truly this moment, this match, where this show started to feel like, okay, this is going to be good. Okay, this is All In level. I absolutely adored it. But Anthony, what did you think?
I miss the days when the Canadian Destroyer actually finished matches when Petey Williams used to do it. No, I mean it's overdone all of wrestling, and then it's the no sell. I hated that spot myself. I don't like when you do a move like that and you don't sell it to hit your move so that all four guys are down. With the Bucks, one thing is guaranteed. They don't put the tag in tag team wrestling. There's almost never any tags in their tag matches. This was high flying. This was exactly what you expected it to do. Every time the Bucks are in the ring, this is the kind of match you get. And Swerve and Osprey are the thrown together team that can kind of match that. I enjoyed it. Nowhere near greatest tag match of all time. No. I couldn't name the exact one off the top of my head, but that ain't it. No, it was enjoyable, but it does annoy me spots where it's like, come on, you sell it. It shouldn't just look like a video game. Like, you need to sell certain things. Don't just immediately get up to get to the next spot. You need to let spots breathe. Like, if you're going to do a high impact move, sell it. Don't just hop up and hit another move. That doesn't work for me.
I completely do agree, right? And while I do think the sequence looked fantastic, it's like, again, you got to suspend disbelief. And that kind of did take me out of it for a second, but they got me back into it. It did not ruin the match. I still absolutely adored it. But Shad, I want to get your take on this. Did that take you out of the match?
No, it didn't take me out of the match. I am sorry, guys. I'm a sucker for these type of matches. I'm a sucker for these chaotic, over-the-top type of stuff. I loved everything about this match, and I think this was the wake me up for the show. This was the halfway point, and this is what got the show flowing, and everyone kind of followed through with their. The Young Bucks are a legendary tag team when it's all said and done. The what they've done for this industry, I know a lot of people may feel a little, different about it, but you can't deny it, and especially what they've done coming into AEW, bringing in AEW, and then playing this whole role with the EVPs. I liked everything with the story of it being the evil, overzealous guys who are abusing power versus the two guys that are the faces of the company, or the ones that wear the company on their sleeve and willing to sacrifice the biggest prize, and that's being a world champion, just to get them off of there. And I think that story itself drew the crowd into it, on top of the fact that these are just four incredible professional wrestlers. And there could have been a interesting dynamic of Osprey and Swerve losing and not having that opportunity to fight that for the title for an entire year. But when it's all said and done, man, like, I look at someone like Swerve Strickland. The guy has the world of AEW and pro wrestling in the palm of his hands. He's just such an undeniable superstar, and he brings a very different factor. I do have to mention this. Oh my goodness, man, the intros. JoJo Offerman, God bless her, got to sing Shaka Khan's "Ain't Nobody." That was Swerve's theme song in the Independence, and her singing that riff, was a beautiful part of the show to me. And I've been saying it on record. I wish Swerve would bring that song back just for a big time show, and he did it for All In. So that was also a big moment for me, being a Swerve fan, and also just seeing JoJo Offerman, being able to get back in a wrestling space, being on a big show like All In as well, and showing her presence and incredible voice.
Honestly, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. A throwback to his independent days. I loved it when he was able to use that theme. But Fernando says that he thinks Will Ospreay and Swerve are going to be a tag team for a while and become AEW tag team champions. I wouldn't be against that, but you would be, Shad?
No, because we're going to talk about the tag team match next, because I'm not mad at it. I feel like let's just talk. Let's bring the tag team match next, and maybe we
You
can
know
bring
what?
that in the
Yeah,
dynamic.
let's go straight into that, shall we? Well, actually, I think we need to talk about the women's match before we get into the tag match, don't
yes.
we?
Yes.
Because I'm going to be honest here, the men's casino gauntlet match, I did enjoy. I thought it was good. You know, it was fun. It did its job fine. It didn't live up to last year's. The women's match, I mean, it just made the men's match look awful in comparison because it was so good. I mean, it was brilliant. Shuri, one of the best women's wrestlers, scratch that, one of the best wrestlers on the planet right now, debuted. And not only that, Alex Windsor, representing the United Kingdom, a fantastic talent, made her debut as well. Both actually got pretty good reactions. I wasn't entirely sure how the crowd would react. Obviously, they're not two huge names, but they did get pops, which was fantastic to see. Of course, Harley Cameron returned as well. Really, really fun match, back and forth throughout. And we've mentioned Athena. We've talked about Athena a lot. We've said over and over and over again over the past 3 years, why isn't Athena on AEW? Why is Athena behind a paywall on Ring of Honor? She's held that title for nearly 1,000 days. But guess what? She is now seemingly got her eyes on the AEW title too, because she won this casino gauntlet match. And could we soon see Athena 2 belt Shard? I believe we've got some tech issues for Shard for a minute. Anthony, what about you?
I think he's just thinking. No, you wonder, you're like, is this a contract year for Athena? That suddenly they decided to pull her out of the basement? No. I've always been a fan of Athena. She surprised me that she won this thing. I know she was going to be in it, but every time I've seen her in Ring of Honor, I've every time go, why is she still here? Now she's close to 1,000 days. So at this point, like, I want her to hit 1,000 days. So you got to stay there at least another 60 days or keep the belt for another 60 days. I think it is. I think she hit 940 the other day. So she's, 60 days or less to hit 1,000. And she's the longest reigning champion in Ring of Honor history, period. And she blew through that record, I think, a year ago, maybe longer. No, I enjoyed it. I'm very much looking forward to this. When she won that, my thought was, oh, are they going to give this thing to Monet? Because they sort of teased that, but never actually did anything with it. Are you telegraphing Monet, or are you doing what I'm more interested in? Are you doing, timeless Toni Storm against the unstoppable women's champion of Ring of Honor that everyone likes to pretend she doesn't exist? To me, that interests me more because I think you can make that really interesting. If you play that right, you could even say, however you want to go with it. Oh, you held me back. You're up here on the main roster and everything, and you try to accuse Timeless of stroke, even though Athena's the heel. But you could play that role of going, oh yeah, I'm stuck in Ring of Honor because you're ducking me. You could do different things with that, and I think you can kind of have fun with it. And I think Athena and Timeless could probably pull a lot out of one another. I don't really recall. I don't know if they faced each other in WWE. I'm trying to remember if they did.
They must. I can't remember it, but surely they must have at some point.
I don't know. Like, possibly they did, and I'm sure Kobe could be yelling from the.
No, they haven't.
Okay. So, that's a whole thing where you can kind of run with that. Like, you've ducked me our entire careers. You've never faced me. You can kind of have a lot of fun with that. And Timeless is a delusional enough character that can go with the delusion of Athena making those accusations. But you don't want Athena to look. You don't want to belittle what Athena has done. Like, you gotta show her in the same light of, no, she's a dominant champion. She's a legitimate challenger here.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not you have her win, which I gotta be honest, I wouldn't be opposed to it because it's kind of a redemption thing. Like, you've done this and you've been out of the spotlight. and now you come back and now you're 2 belts Athena. Like, you can kind of run with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I've got a hot take to respond to that, right? Because I think Storm versus Athena is a money program. I'm not denying that. I agree with everything you just said. But this is going to be a little bit controversial. I kind of wish Mercedes Moné beat Toni Storm purely because then you can have Mercedes with all the belts. She challenges Athena. Well, sorry, Athena challenges her. Athena puts her title on the line too. Mercedes Moné's like, well, I'm going to win all the belts now. And that's when Athena beats Monet. And you're like, hang on a second. All this time, Athena's actually been the best champion. She's the one champion the champion beater, the champion killer can't beat. Shad, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that would have been a very interesting dynamic. Athena and Mercedes obviously have phenomenal chemistry. Their match against each other in the Owen was top notch. But I think this was the right I think this was the right call. Athena winning this casino battle royal and getting that opportunity. It's time to unleash her. She is one of the top women in the entire sport of women's wrestling. Like, she is head and shoulders better than so many other women as a professional wrestler. You can tell the crowd is behind her. The reaction she got, getting her moment in Texas as well, it was great. But let's backtrack for a second. AEW's women's division is beyond deep. Like, they have a very stacked women's division. We didn't even get the whole, spread of women in the entire division tonight. You got a gist of what they have. And from the Queen Aminadas to the Teklas to the Willows to the Statlanders to the Julia Harts, like, they are an embarrassment of riches. And this women's division can be very fruitful, and they can really create a division for both titles and bring a lot of great competitors. Megan Bain as well. Like, it was top notch. And I really, really enjoyed this one compared to the men's. I thought it was, from the start to the finish, exciting. A lot of, physicality, a lot of good spots. You see a lot of the star power showing within all the ladies. And seeing Sherry come out, bro. If y'all don't know her, man, Ben said she is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. She's one of the best wrestlers in the world. That's a fact. Like, you got a glimpse of it today. Her doing in this excursion, I am just begging Tony Khan to give us Athena versus Shuri at Forbidden Door. Mercedes Moné versus Shuri at Forbidden Door. We need to have her on our weekly television as much as you can while she's in the States, because she's great. And also, salute to Alex Windsor. She looked so good tonight, bro. She was laying it in on these girls tonight, man. So they all showed out, man. I love this match a lot. It was one of my personal favorite matches of the night.
Absolutely. It was one of those where it was just really, really fun to watch from start until finish. But up next, we're going to go back to the Tag Team Championships. We're going to talk about the Hurt Syndicate versus Jet Speed versus the Patriarchy. Because this was, it was fine. It was fun. It was enjoyable, but there's nothing too much to say about it. What there is more to say about is the post-match angle. Nick Wayne turned on his father figure, Christian Cage. Absolutely pathetic behavior. If you ask me, after everything that Christian Cage has done for him, then they are beating up Christian Cage. It is absolutely awful. The evil people of Texas are actually cheering for this. And then what happens after this? Well, Adam Copeland, that sociopath, actually does something good for once and makes the save. Of course he's got to run, get his pyro in, all that, because he is an egomaniac. It's not much of a surprise, but at least he's trying to be a better person and does, help Christian Cage, saves him from being taken out for a very, very long time. But then still does have the audacity to tell him to work on himself, as if he's the one who's just been standing on the entrance ramp getting pyro for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, his friend's almost had his head just taken off. Anthony, I'll pass this one to you first. What did you think of the tag match and Copeland's return?
I think there's a certain irony of the fact that another TLC member went to go rescue his brother, but needed to get in his stuff before he went down the ramp to save him. I thought there was an irony there. No, the tag match was what it was. I mean, going into it, you knew the Hurt Syndicate was going to retain, and if they didn't, it would have made no sense. Nick Wayne turning on Christian, I think that's been building. I find it ironic that he turned on Christian before Luchasaurus did. Now, granted, I know Luchasaurus has health issues, but prior to the health issues, like, why didn't he turn? But Nick Wayne did. And obviously the rest of the group. The other thing that I noticed, and this was a little subtle thing, why did Nick Wayne not come out with his TV championship? He retained it the night before in a great match. In a great match. It's not like it's a different company. It's all under the same umbrella. All the other Ring of Honor titles were visibly seen. Athena came out with the women's. Like, why didn't he have the TV title? It seems a little odd of a choice considering he retained it last night in a great match, by the way. Anybody that saw Supercard, that was a really good match. But, I'm curious to see where it goes. Copeland coming out. I get it's a great moment, but at the same point, it's like, why was he there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, did Nick Wayne test him and go, hey, you're going to want to see this tonight? Like, why?
Yeah, well, he probably told Nick Wayne to do it. He's that much of a sociopath. It probably would make sense. But D6 Wallertain Ben got his wish. But, Shad, what about you? What did you think about this tag match? And what did you specifically think about this turn? Because on the watch-along, you had a certain line about this.
Go find yourself. Go find yourself. If he did not say the words, go find yourself, I would be having a completely different conversation right now. Because I thought, why is Nick Wayne the heel in this situation? Christian Cage has been harassing, belittling, bullying this young man for the longest time. He was, disrespecting his mother, the whole nine. But in this case, everybody aligned, tied with FTR, about to give him the concerto. Everyone was booing him. I was like, whoa. This is weird. What is the dynamic here? But Cope coming out to save his brother, it made a lot of sense. And the line, go find yourself, not go bleep yourself. I thought that was the telling part of it, because this is planting the seeds for the return of ENC, Edge and Christian, which we wanted. What we were hoping for, what Cope has publicly spoken about, a big reason why he's claimed the AEW is to finish out his career with his brother. And that's the key to it, man. Like, these guys are best friends from the get-go. They have done so much together throughout their entire wrestling history. It is the best way to plant the seeds for it and to bring them back together. This is the best way to get Christian to actually have a real babyface turn, but not have it like so abrupt. We have to see it kind of play out and create the dynamic of what it may be. So if he did not say, go find yourself, Ben, yeah, I was out today. But no, the tag match itself was phenomenal. Hurt Syndicate continuing to be a great team. Jet Speed, I love those guys. They're great too. But yeah, that post-match was kind of the bread and butter of this one for me.
Yeah, I absolutely do agree. Now we have to talk about Omega versus Okada, the forever rivals, the two who had a series of matches in Japan, which in my opinion have to be considered some of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. This did not sniff those matches. This was nowhere close to those matches. Was it still a good match? Yes. Was it still fun? Yes. Here is the thing, right? Going into this match, I already knew it wasn't going to reach those levels. Why? Well, firstly, both of them are a bit older now, but secondly, and more importantly, those matches they had in Japan would not have worked as well in front of an American crowd. They are two different styles. They don't necessarily translate the same. And this match, they tried to Americanize it a little bit, and parts of that worked, and it certainly worked for the crowd, right? But this wasn't even 5-star in my eyes. On the Wrestling Republic system, it was 4.5 stars. I don't want to say I'm a little underwhelmed, but I am a little underwhelmed. I did expect it, and it was still a fun match. Maybe we've just been spoiled a little bit too much by Kenny Omega in AEW, but the fact is, at least to me, this was nowhere near their other matches. But Shard, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't expect it to be one of these matches that they've had in New Japan at the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdoms. They're in a different space right now, and I think the point of it being in a different crowd in a stadium at that, right? You have to cater in different ways, and you have to deliver in different ways, and I think the pacing of the match maybe did them a little bit of a disservice, a bit, like maybe people were a little tired off that standpoint, but it still got a good reception. And I thought it was still a well wrestled match. The surprise is the finish, and the surprise is the result. I was so confident that Kenny Omega was going to come out on top tonight. I thought he was going to win this match, come in with this unified belt that they're creating and ushering another run by him. It didn't happen. It was Okada. It was the Callis family helping Okada kind of get in with the win. And you see Omega and Ibushi walking out. And to me, that does ring the bell that I don't think this is the end of it, which I'm cool with. But how are we going to kind of continue the story? How are we going to make it a little bit more compelling? What does like this heel Okada with the Callis family kind of bring in? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I think the Callis family is a little bloated as a unit. I think Don Callis is I think he's probably arguably maybe the best manager in pro wrestling this past year of what he's actually achieved and what he does for his talent. But it is the fact that there's a lot of guys in the group and you kind of get lost in that bit of the story, or it gets a little bit redundant because you're seeing him manage so many people. I'm curious to see how that goes within it. But yeah, the match itself, it was solid enough for me.
Fair enough. But what about you, Anthony? Did this under-deliver or did this hit your expectations?
It kind of met my expectations. Like you said, they've had health issues in Omega's case, and this is years after their last ones. It's a different type of audience. It's an audience that's not going to accept a 45 to 60-minute match that the Japanese fans would. So you're right; they have to adjust. And also, you don't want to be just playing nothing but greatest hits. Like they faced each other multiple times in Japan, so you're trying to give new flavor to an iconic match from the past. So I enjoyed it. I don't think it was as enjoyable as the other ones because again, this had run-ins. The Japanese ones, from what I recall, had no run-ins. So like that kind of like took you out of a little bit too. But I'm curious to see where they go with this. I said this on the prediction show. I don't like the idea that Tony Khan made the statement of going, well, it's a unified championship, but it's really not because technically they could still carry the Continental and the International. I'm like, stop. Like, if that's the definition of unified, it's unified. You're done with 3 belts, but now you're like, nah, you can still do 3. I'm like, stop with the 7,000 belts for everybody. Not everyone is Ultimo Dragon or Mercedes Moné. Not everybody needs 7,000 belts. 1 is sufficient.
To be fair, I think he has clarified this a little bit since. I believe what he was trying to say is the title history is going to go into this title belt. So
that is the definition of unified, yes.
Yeah. So I think what he was trying to say is it's not going to be like the new IWGP World Championship where they kind of just got rid of the previous history. They are literally unifying the lineages. And the one point he did say is you can carry the belts together, but they will be defended as one if you choose to do that. But again,
if you choose to do that,
just get rid of the other two.
Which is the same thing with the Eddie Kingston with the Triple Crown. It was all defended together until it wasn't. Could we stop doing this?
That is actually very true. D6 Warlord says Kenny had 4. That was true. I like that belt collector gimmick.
Well, because 2 of them were TNA, because technically he had the Impact and the TNA because they were sort of goofy, but technically it was 3.
We had a similar situation with that, didn't we? But we have a new AEW World Champion. The Death Riders are done. Jon Moxley, he's finally lost that briefcase. It is cracked open. Hangman Adam Page lifted it above his head. Was this an overbooked mess? Absolutely. Did I love it in the same way I loved Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40? Absolutely I did. This was such a feel-good moment. There were really violent spots. The audience was loving it. They were getting really into it. And for this story, for a company which claims to be the mixing pot of professional wrestling, I think it worked. It was a risk, but it was a risk which paid off. And in the end, I'm really happy with this. And the Death Rider storyline still had some hiccups, but for the most part, I think it has elevated Hangman Adam Page's star power to a whole other level. Darby Allin's return as well to help Hangman Adam Page Shard from start until finish. I love this one. What's your take?
Man, this was probably my personal favorite match of the night. I am a sicko to the core. I love absolute utter chaos. I love violence. I love bloodshed. I love it all, man. And it was entertaining to me from start to finish. The overbooked, the return of Darby Allin, all of a sudden coming from a mountain in Mount Everest from the top of an arena. I don't know how that works, but he pulled it off, man. And Swerve kind of being the catalyst at the end. The arch nemesis of Hangman Adam Page being an ally for him and helping him overcome the burden that is the Death Riders, finding that common enemy. That is beautiful. And Hangman, bro, this guy is arguably one of the best in the business. He may be the best AEW wrestler of all time when his career is all said and done. The fact that he can take you on an emotional roller coaster within any storyline, whether you root for him or whether you want to root against him, he has the ability of doing that. And he is the absolute perfect person to beat Moxley for this title, ending this Death Rider storyline. I feel like it was poetic justice at the end of the day. I think a lot will be said about the Death Rider storyline, a lot more negative towards it. But I want to just say this before. I don't want the IWC to paint and make us forget how important Jon Moxley is. Jon Moxley is a foundational piece to AEW. Jon Moxley has kind of been the break the glass to kind of save anything type of wrestler throughout his entirety of it. He had an idea. It was a good idea. It didn't play through. But through it all, man, I thought he kind of did create in this storyline going into All In as the ultimate villain, as the person you wanted to overcome. And they overcame it. And now it's done. And I'm excited to see what goes on. You saw how emotional Hangman is. I'm hoping this title reign is going to be better than the last one. And I'm confident that it will, because I think Hangman has grown so much since that last championship to where we are now. Like, I feel like this may be on the ability of having one of the best title reigns in AEW history. He's that talented.
Wow.
So I'm excited for it, and congratulations to him.
It was a fantastic moment, and I do agree with you, Shad. Hopefully this reign will be much better for Hangman Page, and I'm excited going into it. It feels like a crowning of a new era. But Anthony, what was your take on the main event of All In Texas?
Going into it, you knew it was going to be a cluster mess. It had to be. It was the type of match that it had to be. I've gone on record multiple times. I think the Death Rider story may be one of the worst stories that in the years I've been watching wrestling. It was a takeover that went nowhere. So this thing needed to be put out of its misery. The logical choice was Hangman. Hangman has been the face of the company. It's a logical choice for him to be able to do it. It was violent. It was vicious. It was brutal. It's what you expected out of Hangman. Were there moments where you're like, I don't know if that was necessary, but whatever. But you had people running in. I had no problem with Darby coming back for it. I do have a slight problem with the fact that, okay, so AEW is burning down over this takeover. You don't come back to save the company. You decide, I'm going to climb Everest, and you acknowledge it on TV, which to me, that's the problem. You acknowledged it. So you're literally telling the audience, he could have came back to help AEW, but he wanted to climb Everest instead. Now, I'm sure the AEW audience won't care, but from a storytelling standpoint, it's a really bad look. They took out Ospreay immediately. People came out to check on him. Marina got taken out. Before then, no one checked on her. Oh, it's not the high price free agent. So we got to take care of the investment. I know Marina needed to be used later on, but at least have somebody check on her. Fellow Death Rider, nobody checked on her. She's lying there until she needed to be called in to get the briefcase. I love the Nana spot with the handcuff. I thought that was well done. Swerve coming out, the full circle moment when Hangman, I thought that was smart. They played it out well. Now, they need to do this in the way the Death Riders, they got to be done. Like you can't continue on. WWE made the mistake continuing the bloodline after the 40 thing. Like they should have took a break, but they went straight into let's try this again. So I think the match delivered what it needed to do. I'm hoping Hangman's reign this time works out better than the last time. Last time it was the chase. He excelled that, but the booking just didn't work. It didn't pan out. I'm hoping he has a better shot this time. So we'll see what happens, but kind of it was what you expected it to be as far as the brutality and the violence.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did. It definitely was violent, I'll say that much. I mean, I think it was 7 minutes into the match. The commentators just looked at each other. And they were like, this is only 7 minutes in, and the ring's just...
I do want to say it was an absolutely smart move to bring JR in for the last 2 matches. I thought that was really awesome. You could tell that his health, you could tell. And it's kind of funny because I remember, it's funny because when you went out there, they were talking about Philly cheesesteaks, and I don't know if that was a nod to him coming back from the Bell's palsy at 15 when he surprised everybody and called the Austin Rock match. I don't know if that was intended or not, but it immediately made me think of that.
No, I mean, that is, it's honestly a great shout. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, this pay-per-view, it was very, very long, but I don't think it's going to be one which we're quick to forget. So many great moments, a crowning of a new era. Hopefully, the death of the Death Riders, Omega Okada, that tag team classic, plus Mercedes Moné finally losing in All Elite Wrestling to the timeless one, Toni Storm. Really fun show. Really, really fun show. I mean, overall, Shad, do you have any final thoughts on it? Oh, you're
on mute.
The curse of the mute button.
Sorry about that. Nah, man, this was an incredible show. As long as it was, I didn't find a point where I was bored, to be honest with you. Like I said, the second half of the show, it really, really kicked in. And Big Boom AJ gotta win.
The Rizzler. Gotta respect the Rizzler.
Hold on, by the way, Big Justice with a better spear than Goldberg. I just saw Goldberg do a spear right now. Big Justice did it better than him. I can confirm.
Pardon you? Anthony, what about you? Overall, 30 seconds. What did you think of this show?
I don't like shows going like 8 hours. When you're putting in a work day, I have a problem with that. I enjoyed it. There were moments that I loved. Dustin, Timeless, Tony and Monet, Okada and Omega reuniting that feud, and hopefully the end of the Death Riders.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, please, please, please. But I do think it has at least elevated Hangman Page to that next level. So now, let's leave it. But Thank you to everybody who's been watching. Thank you to Anthony. Thank you to Shad for joining me here today. We will be back tomorrow, back in our normal time slot, 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, over in the United States of America, to talk Saturday night's main event. Goldberg, Gunther. We'll have a lot to talk about. I can guarantee you that. We will see you guys same place, different time tomorrow. Peace.